The Mandalorian Season 2 Episode 5 has finally been released on Disney+, and with it we were finally taken to the mysterious forest world of Corvus, where we were introduced to one of the biggest reveals in Star Wars television history, the first ever live action appearance of Ahsoka Tano herself. So I'm going to break down everything that went down in the episode, and how it connects to the other Star Wars TV series and films. Before we get into it, make sure you slice the subscribe button with your white lightsabers for more awesome Mandalorian Season 2 content. To start off the episode, we begin right off with the character everyone has been waiting to see, Ahsoka Tano, who you will of course remember as the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars, ignites her bright white lightsabers and begins shredding through the local mercenaries who are furiously charging at her. These lightsabers are the same ones she used in Star Wars Rebels and were obtained by purifying the bleeding Red Kyber Crystals of the Inquisitor known as the Sixth Brother. Eventually, Ahsoka fights her way through the Horde all the way to the gates of the city of Caladan, where she demands to know the location of the Magistrate's master, which is a very important character from Star Wars Rebels, which I'll get into very shortly. Eventually, the Mando also makes his way inside the city of Caladan, where the Magistrate begs him to help hunt down the one she thinks is a Jedi, Ahsoka Tano. Mando is initially very reluctant to do this, but the Magistrate soon offers him a carefully crafted staff made from pure Beskar in return for his services, which of course he cannot refuse. After accepting the offer, Mando rushes into the charred forests of Corvus, where he very soon encounters Ahsoka. The two immediately engage in a fierce battle, with Ahsoka using her white blades and Din Djarin using his Mandalorian armor, which of course has been specifically designed to counter Force users like the Jedi, as the two groups are longtime enemies. She of course is no longer a Jedi, but Mando has no clue that she was framed for an attack on the temple and left the order soon after. As soon as Ahsoka notices the child, however, the fight comes to an abrupt end, as she wants to speak about him and his past. Ahsoka is then able to sit down with the child and communicate with him through the Force, discovering many huge details about his past and his history. This is where we get the massive reveal that the child's name is actually GROGU. Not only that, but we also find out that he was trained at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant during the Clone Wars by many very important Jedi Masters, most likely including Ki-Adi-Mundi, Plo Koon, and Mace Windu. Ahsoka also mentions that she knows one other of his kind, a wise master named Yoda. As she says this, you can also faintly hear Yoda's theme playing in the background. As the Clone Wars came to an end and Chancellor Palpatine transitioned the Galactic Republic into the Empire, however, the child went missing and was stolen from the temple by a mysterious being. Let me know down below who you think stole GROGU from the temple. Ahsoka then asks Mando if GROGU still has his connection to the Force, to which he is slightly confused, but she explains that his powers come from the Force, saying, "It's an energy field created by all living beings," which is of course a reference to Obi-Wan's speech to Luke in A New Hope. Curious about his Force potential, Ahsoka then takes the child deep out into the green forest, where they practice levitating rocks towards each other with the Force. As the two are training, Ahsoka notices something troubling GROGU before walking up to him, placing her hands on his and saying, "I sense much fear in you." This is a reference to Yoda's guidance to young Anakin in The Phantom Menace. Ahsoka isn't able to get GROGU to move the rock with the Force, so she instead asks Din Djarin to hold the stone because of his much deeper connection with him. GROGU still refuses to lift the stone, frustrating Mando and making him believe that it just isn't possible. Ahsoka then gently reminds him to remain calm and harness his connection with GROGU, prompting him to pull out the knob from the Razor Crest for the child to lift. Seeing the familiar object, GROGU pulls the knob out of the Mando's hand with immense force, finally breaking out of his stubbornness and showing his full potential. After Ahsoka notices this, she quickly tells Mando that he should not be the one to train GROGU because of their deep emotional connection. She then warns Mando, saying, "I've seen what such feelings can do to a fully trained Jedi Knight," referring to her old fallen master, Anakin Skywalker, whose emotion and attachment was a major factor in his downfall. Mando begs Ahsoka to train the child, but she remains firm in refusing to do so. Because of this, Mando admits to Ahsoka that he was sent by the Magistrate of Caladan to kill her, but that he hasn't agreed to anything yet and will not harm her if she agrees to ensure that GROGU is trained. Ahsoka quickly agrees to this, and the two begin traveling back towards the gates of Caladan, where Mando happens to mention that the Magistrate has an army of men with A350 blaster rifles, most likely the same series as the A300, which were rifles exclusively used in the two Star Wars spin-off films, Rogue One and Solo: A Star Wars Story. Mando then goes even further, mentioning that she owns 2 HK-87 assassin droids, which are of course the same line of droids that the hilarious droid named HK-47 from the Knights of the Old Republic games come from. The HK-87 is also the next droid after the most recent HK-77 assassin droid, developed by the Separatist Alliance during the Clone Wars, but only used later in the Imperial era as seen in the Star Wars Galaxy's Trials of Obi-Wan expansion pack. As the two continue walking through the sparse forest, Ahsoka tells Mando that the Magistrate's name is actually Morgan Elspeth and that her people were brutally massacred during the Clone Wars, holding a grudge ever since. Elspeth then later used this anger to allow a weapons industry to flourish on her world, supplying armaments and materials to the Empire's Starfleet throughout the Galactic Civil War. Following this, Ahsoka arrives in the town center of Caladan, where she throws a piece of Mando's Beskar plating on the ground, making the Magistrate believe that he failed in his task. In response, the Magistrate orders all of her forces to kill Ahsoka, but the Mando, who is of course not dead, rushes in, saving her and many of the prisoners. While this is happening, we also get a nice little cameo from a Lothcat, which Dave Filoni of course created for Star Wars Rebels, and loves to throw small appearances of them into everything he directs. Shortly after, there is also a small shot where Ahsoka ignites her white blades in a way that makes them look like a single bright beam, exactly the same way she did in Star Wars Rebels when she fought her former master, Darth Vader. Following this, Ahsoka shows up in the courtyard of the Magistrate's personal residence, ready to engage in a ferocious battle with her white lightsabers going up against the Beskar staff. As the two slice and strike each other with their weapons, Mando faces down the town guard named Lang, but they choose not to fight and instead wait to see if Ahsoka or the Magistrate wins. After a huge struggle with Ahsoka losing one of her white lightsabers in the nearby pond, Ahsoka disarms the Magistrate and holds her single white lightsaber to her neck, in a very similar way to how she has done multiple times during the Clone Wars. In an absolutely massive reveal, Ahsoka then demands to know the location of Grand Admiral Thrawn. This is clearly a setup and connection to the Rebels sequel series, which is coming very soon, and might even imply that he and Ezra have already been found and rescued from the unknown regions. The Magistrate's guard outside then pretends to surrender to the Mando, placing his weapon on the ground, but he soon pulls another blaster from his back holster, attempting to fire on the Mando. Mando is way too quick on his own trigger, blasting the guard down in a very classic Western style showdown. Following this, the town is successfully freed and one of the prisoners from earlier is made the new Magistrate, probably implying that Ahsoka did actually kill Morgan Elspeth after learning the location of Grand Admiral Thrawn. And to conclude the episode, Ahsoka tells Mando that she will not train Grogu, but there is a chance a Jedi will find him if he is brought to the distant world of Tython, which holds a very significant Jedi temple. Tython is actually an extremely important place for the Jedi Order, being the original birthplace of the Jedi in Star Wars Legends before it was changed to Arc-2 in canon. Tython first appeared in the Darth Bane Rule of Two novel and also featured in the Star Wars The Old Republic game and many other stories from that time period. In canon, so far it has only appeared in reference books and the Dr. Aphra comics, along with being mentioned in the upcoming High Republic comic series releasing very soon. I honestly can't wait to see how they connect the origins of the Jedi Order to our new canon explanation of Ahch-To being the birthplace. Finally, we get another huge Easter egg as Ahsoka is walking away into the charred forests with the animal form of the daughter of Mortis, a convor bird known as Morai, being seen in the branches above her. Morai is an incredibly important being to Ahsoka and has followed her ever since she was killed and later resurrected on Mortis using the life essence of the daughter. For those of you who don't know, the gods of Mortis, also known as the Ones, were a group of mysterious Force users who represented the three natural states of the Force, with the father being the balance, the daughter being the light, and the son being the darkness. After Ahsoka was resurrected on Mortis using the essence of the daughter, a small part of the Mortis god of light has remained with her, and her animal form, a convor, has followed her around. She was even present in the World Between Worlds when Ahsoka was pulled out of reality and saved from being slaughtered by Darth Vader by Ezra Bridger. So that is my breakdown of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 5, Chapter 13, The Jedi. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.